Good morning. If you are between the ages of 75 and 85, or if you love someone who is, what you are about to hear may be the most important 5 minutes you spend all week. Because there is a quiet test that doctors, physical therapists, and longevity researchers use to separate the older adults who are truly thriving from the ones who are simply getting by. It has nothing to do with how many pills you take or how many birthdays you have celebrated. It has everything to do with 6 specific things your body and mind are either still doing or have quietly stopped doing. And the truth is, most families never even think to check for these signs until it is too late to reverse them. Today, we are going to walk through all 6, one at a time, so you can see exactly where you stand, and more importantly, what you can do about it starting today. Before we go further, if this is your first time here, take 2 seconds and hit that subscribe button. We publish content like this every single week, breaking down the real science behind healthy aging in plain language, no jargon, no fear-mongering, just what actually works. Subscribing means you will not miss the next one. Now, let us get into it. The first thing that separates the truly resilient 75 to 85-year-old from everyone else is something so simple, most people overlook it entirely. The ability to stand up from a chair without using your hands or arms for support. Try to picture it. A regular dining chair, no armrests, feet flat on the floor, and then, using nothing but the strength in your thighs, hips, and core, you rise to standing in one smooth motion. It sounds almost too basic to matter, but geriatric researchers have studied this movement for decades because it turns out to be one of the single strongest predictors of how many more healthy years a person has ahead of them. The muscles required to perform that motion, particularly the quadriceps and the gluteal muscles, are the same muscles responsible for catching yourself if you trip, for climbing a flight of stairs, for getting in and out of a car without help. When those muscles weaken past a certain threshold, something called sarcopenia begins to take hold. That is the medical term for the gradual, often silent loss of muscle mass that accelerates with age if it is not actively resisted. The frightening part is that sarcopenia does not announce itself. It does not hurt. It does not show up on a routine blood test. It simply erodes your independence one small task at a time until one day getting out of a chair requires pushing off with both arms, and a few years after that, it requires someone else's help entirely. But here is the encouraging news. This is one of the most reversible signs on our entire list. Studies on resistance training in adults well into their 80s and 90s have shown genuine increases in muscle strength and size, even at advanced ages. The body does not lose its ability to adapt. Simple exercises like sit-to-stand repetitions, done a few times a day, holding onto a counter for balance if needed at first, can rebuild this capacity remarkably quickly. If you can still rise from a chair without your hands, that is a real marker of strength worth being proud of. If you cannot quite do it yet, that is not a life sentence. It is simply a signal about where to focus. The second sign is balance, specifically the ability to stand on one leg for a meaningful stretch of time, even just 10 to 20 seconds, without holding on to something. This might sound like an odd thing to measure, but balance turns out to be one of the most quietly powerful indicators of overall health that exists. A widely cited study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine followed thousands of adults in their 50s through 80s and found that the inability to balance on one leg for 10 seconds was associated with a significantly higher risk of death within the following decade, even after accounting for other health factors. Why would something as simple as balance carry that much weight? Because balance is not just about the muscles in your legs. It is a complex symphony involving your inner ear, your vision, your proprioception, which is your body's sense of where it is in space, and the nerve pathways connecting all of that to your brain in real time. When balance starts to fail, it is often one of the earliest whispers that something in that intricate system is beginning to decline, whether that is peripheral nerve health, vestibular function, or early changes in the brain itself. And the practical consequence of poor balance is not abstract. It is falls. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related death among adults over 65, and a single serious fall in someone in their late 70s or 80s can trigger a cascade, a hip fracture, followed by surgery, followed by a hospital stay, followed by a loss of independence that person may never fully recover from. This is why physicians increasingly view balance not as a minor fitness metric, but as a genuine vital sign. The good news, again, is that balance responds to practice. Standing near a wall or countertop and practicing single leg stands for even a minute or two a day, along with activities like Tai Chi, which has been extensively studied and shown to meaningfully reduce fall risk in older adults, can rebuild this capacity over weeks and months. If you can still balance on one leg while brushing your teeth or waiting for the kettle to boil, you are holding on to something genuinely precious. The third sign is walking pace, what researchers call gait speed. This is measured simply by timing how long it takes someone to walk a short distance, typically about 4 meters at their normal, comfortable pace. It sounds almost too simple to be meaningful, and yet gait speed has earned the nickname the sixth vital sign among geriatricians, standing alongside blood pressure, heart rate, temperature, respiratory rate, and pain level as a core indicator of overall health. A landmark analysis pooling data from tens of thousands of older adults found that walking speed alone was strongly predictive of survival in the years that followed, in some cases as predictive as a combination of age, sex, and chronic disease history combined. Walking faster than roughly 1 meter per second, which translates to a fairly brisk but comfortable pace, has consistently been associated with significantly better health outcomes than walking more slowly than that threshold. Why does something as mundane as walking speed carry this much predictive power? Because efficient walking requires an enormous amount of coordinated function working correctly all at once. Cardiovascular capacity to deliver oxygen to working muscles. Pulmonary function to bring that oxygen in. Musculoskeletal strength and joint health to actually move the limbs, neurological coordination to sequence the movement smoothly, and cognitive function to navigate space and avoid obstacles. When any one of these systems begins to falter, walking speed tends to slow down as an early, measurable consequence, often before other symptoms become obvious. If you find that you can still walk briskly, keep pace with a grandchild across a parking lot, cross a street comfortably before the light changes, that is a meaningful sign that multiple interconnected systems in your body are still functioning well together. If walking has become noticeably slower or more effortful over the past year or two, that is worth mentioning to a physician, not out of alarm, but because gait speed is one of the most useful early warning signals we have, and addressing the underlying cause early gives you the best chance of maintaining or even improving it. The fourth sign is grip strength, and this one surprises people every time we mention it. Something as simple as how firmly you can squeeze your hand shut turns out to be a remarkably powerful window into your overall health and longevity. Grip strength is measured with a small device called a dynamometer, but you do not need the device to notice this in daily life. Can you still open a stubborn jar lid, firmly shake someone's hand, carry grocery bags in from the car without your hands giving out? A major study published in The Lancet, following nearly 140,000 adults across 17 countries, found that grip strength was actually a stronger predictor of death from any cause than systolic blood pressure, one of the most closely monitored health metrics in all of medicine. That finding stunned a lot of people in the medical community when it came out, and it has been replicated in study after study since. Grip strength appears to function almost like a proxy for overall body strength and vitality. Because your hand and forearm muscles are relatively small compared to your legs or back, but the neurological and muscular systems that control them are deeply connected to your overall muscular health. A strong grip tends to reflect strong muscles everywhere else in the body too. Weak grip strength, on the other hand, has been linked not just to frailty and falls, but to slower recovery from illness, longer hospital stays, and higher rates of complications after surgery. The encouraging part, once again, is that grip strength is trainable at any age. Simple tools like a stress ball, a hand gripper, or even just kneading dough or gardening regularly can meaningfully improve hand and forearm strength over time. If you can still confidently open that jar, firmly shake a hand, and carry your own bags, that is a genuine sign of vitality that deserves recognition. The fifth sign moves away from the physical and into the cognitive, the ability and willingness to still learn new things. Not simply remembering old information, but actively engaging with something unfamiliar. Learning to use a new phone app, picking up a few phrases in a new language, learning the rules to a grandchild's video game, taking on a new hobby you have never tried before. This matters far more than most people realize because of a concept researchers call cognitive reserve. Think of cognitive reserve as a kind of buffer your brain builds up over a lifetime of mental challenge and novelty. The brains of people who continue actively learning new skills into their 70s, 80s, and beyond tend to develop more robust neural connections and greater flexibility in how they process information. This does not mean these individuals are immune to age-related cognitive changes, but research consistently shows that a strong cognitive reserve allows people to function well for longer, even when some underlying changes are present, essentially giving the brain more pathways to route around obstacles. Longitudinal studies following older adults over many years have found that those who regularly engaged in novel, mentally stimulating activities showed measurably slower rates of cognitive decline compared to those who stuck exclusively to familiar, well-practiced routines. The key word here is novel. Doing the same crossword puzzle format every day is good, but your brain adapts to it and the challenge diminishes over time. True cognitive benefit comes from genuinely new experiences, ones that require your brain to build fresh connections rather than simply retrieve well-worn ones. If you find yourself still curious, still willing to fumble through learning something unfamiliar even when it is a little frustrating at first, that willingness itself is a profound sign of cognitive vitality. It signals a brain that is still actively growing rather than one that has settled into pure maintenance mode. The sixth and final sign is perhaps the most overlooked, yet it may be the most powerful of all. Maintaining genuine social connection and emotional engagement with other people. Not simply being around people, but having relationships that involve real conversation, laughter, vulnerability, and mutual care. This might seem like a soft, almost sentimental thing to include on a list otherwise built from hard physiological data, but the research behind it is anything but soft. A comprehensive analysis pooling data from over 300,000 participants found that strong social relationships were associated with a 50% increased likelihood of survival compared to those with weaker social ties, an effect size comparable to quitting smoking and larger than the impact of many well-known risk factors like physical inactivity or obesity. Loneliness and social isolation, by contrast, have been linked in extensive research to increased inflammation throughout the body, elevated stress hormone levels, higher rates of depression, faster cognitive decline, and increased risk of cardiovascular disease. The biological mechanisms are still being fully mapped out, but researchers believe chronic loneliness essentially puts the body into a persistent, low-grade state of stress, the same fight-or-flight machinery that was designed for short-term threats instead running continuously in the background, quietly wearing down the cardiovascular and immune systems over months and years. This is why some geriatricians now describe social connection not as a nice-to-have, but as a genuine pillar of health, on par with diet, exercise, and sleep. The 75 to 85-year-olds who are truly thriving tend to have this in common. A phone call with a friend they look forward to. A weekly visit with family that actually involves conversation, not just presence. A community, whether that is a place of worship, a card game group, a walking club, or simply a close neighbor they check in with. If you have people in your life you can be genuinely honest with, who make you laugh, who you look forward to seeing, that connection is not a small thing. It may be doing more for your long-term health than almost anything else on this list. So there they are. The ability to rise from a chair without your hands, the balance to stand on one leg, a walking pace that stays brisk and confident, a grip strong enough to open that jar without a fight, a mind still curious enough to learn something new, and relationships rich enough to keep you laughing, talking, and connected. None of these require extraordinary athletic ability. None of them require expensive equipment or a personal trainer. What they require is consistency, small efforts repeated day after day, and the awareness to notice early when one of them starts slipping so you can address it before it becomes a bigger problem. If you are doing all 6 of these right now, in your mid-70s or 80s, you are doing something genuinely remarkable, and you should feel proud of that. If a few of them are shakier than you would like, that is not a verdict on your future. Every single one of these 6 markers can be improved with the right consistent effort, starting from wherever you are today. The body and brain remain remarkably capable of adapting at any age, far more than most people assume. What matters most is starting now, today, with whichever one of these 6 feels the most within reach, and building from there. Before you go, if you found value in this and you want more honest, science-backed conversations about aging well, hit that subscribe button now. We put out a new video every week, and subscribing is the only way to make sure it lands in front of you instead of getting buried. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and it costs you nothing. So take a second, tap subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.